Welcome to Focus Radio and Television. I'm Anthony Rayo, and this is Focus Lake County's radio program here on WLBE, my 790 AM out of Leesburg. I'd like to welcome Kelly Lenhart of Lenhart Electric to the program.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about the summer heat and the summer itself, because this is kind of our summer episode. We're talking about all that stuff, but how does it affect our electric in the house? What do we have to do to keep it in check and make sure we're keeping our electric bills down, keep the AC, and also protecting ourselves from things like lightning. Now, before we get into that, let's introduce Lenhart Electric.
Okay.
I know this is a family company.
It is.
You, your wife, Stephanie, and you are the president and the vice president. So how did Lenhart start? Your grandfather, I know a little bit about this.
Yep.
So give me some more
In
info.
1948, my grandfather started the company. He ran the company for many years until he passed away, and my father took it over. And I purchased it from my father probably about almost 15 years ago. It's been around for a long time.
Yeah, 1948.
Yeah,
I understand.
1948. Yeah.
So this is a
Correct.
Leesburg company. You're also got.
Right. We started here in Leesburg. We moved to the village area about, maybe 10 years ago, and our office is located there. But we serve all of Central Florida. I have guys every day, anywhere from DeLand, Sanford, Orlando, Windermere, Citrus County, Ocala. So we're pretty much covering all of
everywhere
Central
you
Florida.
can go. I remember the old offices over here on 441.
Right. That's correct. I'm state licensed, so I've literally had guys from the Panhandle to Key West. So.
Now, what is it like working in a family environment? You know, you're kind of tight-knit, and you've
Love
got
it,
that.
hate it. No, it's great. My father, he is like the nicest, kindest guy that you could ever possibly imagine. So I mean, he was always great to work with. He's been retired for about the last 10 years. My wife is the one that keeps me on the straight and narrow. You know, I sometimes stray a little bit, and she'll say, hey, is that really a great idea? Let's think about this and that. So she's a super asset, super intelligent lady, so I got really lucky on that side.
Yeah, you did get blessed, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So now it's summer. Let's get into some specific. There's things that you're going to deal with electrically. So I'm thinking lightning first.
Sure.
How do you protect yourself? Should you have just a surge protector, or is there more that you can do?
Right. Lightning is always the big thing for the summertime. Our surge protection sales during the winter are very minimal, but as soon as those first afternoon thunderstorms start to roll in, the phones just go literally crazy, so they start calling. There's a couple things, and we get a couple different calls. We get a lot of calls, people asking for lightning protection systems. They want the lightning rods on the house, and that's really not what we do, but I'd like to explain what that is, just so that you can kind of know the distinction between lightning protection and surge protection. The lightning rods that you see, and you'll see them on the rooftops of the houses, the little points that you see, that's to protect the structure of the house. So, when you see on the 6 o'clock news that a house was hit by lightning and there was a fire and the fire trucks are all out there, that's what the lightning protection system is for. And it's not something that we offer, but there are a lot of companies around. If you look for someone that's a UL Master labeled company, that's kind of the key word, UL Master label. Those are the guys that you want to go, and they are trained and tested and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But what we sell is surge protection, and it's similar. Surge protection, whereas lightning protection is to protect the structure of the house, surge protection is to protect the sensitive electrical equipment in the house, like your stereo, your TV, your computer, those types of items. Kind of what happens is lightning will hit, say, a tree in your neighbor's yard. It gets into the ground, and it gets into the lines coming into the house, the power lines, and then just radiates through the house, through the electrical, causing damage to different connected equipment. So what we do is we install a surge protector outside at the service or inside in the panel that takes that surge that's coming in and brings it down to something that we can handle a little bit better inside. We try and do that with like a tiered down effect. We put one main surge protector outside at the service, and then we suggest that people use, just like you see you can buy at any big box place, the plug-in surge protectors. And what that does is the main surge at the panel brings it down to a level that those surge strips and the surge, plug-in, they call them point-of-use protectors, can handle.
So you kind of have walls to protect
Exactly.
yourself.
The one at the surface brings it down to a level that the ones inside can handle, and that's kind of what IEEE, or who are like the gurus that set standards, that's what they recommend.
Now, if we've got more questions about this, what website and who can we call?
Yeah, you can give us a call. You can find us at www.lenhartelectric.com. You can also find us on Facebook, or you can just pick up the phone and give us a dial at 352-748-5818.
Perfect. So if we've got questions, you've got answers for us.
We're happy to answer. And it's kind of funny that my office hears these calls all the time, and they come in, and I always tell people, it's kind of my catchphrase, surge protection is kind of like a seatbelt in a car. It's not something you have to have. Like a seatbelt's not something that you have to wear. But if you're in a lightning storm, just like if you're in a car wreck, you surely want your seatbelt on. So.
Yeah. And you might get a ticket for it.
Exactly. We won't ticket you, though.
No, you're not going to get fined or anything like that, but you could lose stuff.
Sure.
So
yes.
you got to be careful.
Yep.
Now, talking about inside the house, like we're talking about with Surge Protect and protecting your assets as far as electronics go, what about saving money on things like power bills?
Some of the things that we can do are things like lighting. There has been crazy advancements in the light bulb just in the last 15 or 20 years. Things like LED lights and CFL compact fluorescent lights. They've been around for a long time, but they haven't been available to the public as readily as they have. And the prices on these items, you can go into Home Depot now or a big box store, and you can pick up a light bulb, an LED light bulb, so much more economically than you could 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's a great place you're just getting instant savings right there on your electric bill.
So that's another thing. We can call you for services,
Sure.
but there's things that people want to just do themselves.
Yeah, every day. It's so easy to change a light bulb. I would love to come out and change all your light bulbs. Don't get me wrong. But the reality is you're probably going to you're going to pick one up the next time you're at a box store, and you're going to take it home and change it. And if you invest just a fraction more and get either a CFL light or a LED light, it's huge savings. You can take a 60 watt light bulb like everyone is used to seeing in every lamp that's sitting on your table at your house, and that 60 watts is going to be about 9 watts in an LED bulb. So that's a direct proportion savings to that.
So when is it wise to call an electrician? You can do, like you said, you can save yourself some stuff, but how do you stay safe?
Sure.
And when should you call the experts?
Well, there are a couple things that, certainly any time that you have a problem, anytime a breaker is tripping, anytime that you have a GFIC receptacle or a GFIC breaker in your kitchen that doesn't want to reset, those are the things that I wouldn't recommend the homeowner taking care of themselves. You need to pick up, whether it's me or whether it's some other electrician, licensed electrician. I want to emphasize licensed electrician, because there are a lot of alleged electricians out there. But pick up the phone and give them a call and have them check it out. Safety, personal safety, and fire safety is something that you just don't want to leave to your neighbor to come over and take a look for you.
Yeah, do you want to leave something like that to chance?
Right, and there are things that you can do throughout your house just to go and check things. Everybody's familiar with by now the GFIC receptacles that you see in the kitchens, and they all have the test buttons. Now we have arc fault breakers and panels in new homes. Anything with a test button, the test button's there for a reason. You need to test it periodically. All the manufacturers recommend monthly. If you go through it, you just push the test button, hit the reset button, make sure everything's working. If it's not working, these are all mechanical devices. And just like just like your car, we wish they would run forever, but they don't run forever. And sometimes they need to be replaced.
Yeah. So what again is the website and what's the number?
It's www.lenhartelectric. It's LenharteElectric.com. Or you can find us on Facebook, or you can get us at 352-748-5818.
So there's 3 avenues, and then there's also, now we see your face, so we can run into you in the store and start asking questions.
Right, and I get that all the time. If you walk in the store with the logo, and I'm, standing there picking out something, I get that a lot. So
yeah, I bet you
I'm
do.
I'm happy to talk to.
Yeah, and you might get a good customer from it. Who knows?
Sure.
Now, what about purchasing a generator? I know this is the time of year when people start thinking about that. Hurricane season, it's the summer, there's more rain, they're worried about the electric going out.
Sure.
What do I need? How do I go about finding out what I need for my home?
Sure. There's a couple different options. And one thing that you need to think about is if the power's out, what are my concerns and what do I want to power? You know, we have customers that they come in and they say, hey, I just want a ceiling fan and I just want the refrigerator to run. But, you know, they're going to have different requirements than my wife that would want the air conditioning to run, the TV to run, the ceiling fan, the refrigerator. You know, so
Computer.
Exactly, the computer. So it depends. You know, it's kind of an individual choice, and obviously the more you want to run, the more expensive it gets. And there are a couple options that you can go. We have people that they have the portable generators that are on the wheels like you see on construction sites, and we can install an interface in the house to plug them in. And talking about summer safety, that's one thing that you see it every year on the news, that people are using portable generators when the power is out and they leave them in the garage and they get the exhaust fumes that come in, and it just creates a big problem. They need to make sure that if they do go that route, that they keep those outside the garage. You know, ventilation is a key on that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Again, safety, like you said before.
Correct. Or some people opt for they don't want to mess with the portable generator. They don't want to fill it with gas, pull the pull start, you know, all that kind of stuff, and they go with a whole house generator that's a permanently mounted unit. And we do the same thing. It's a sizing thing. You know, if you're not concerned with lots of things being on at one time, it's a much more economical installation. You can get a smaller generator to get away with what you want to cover. Or we have them for large houses that we've put
Hangers.
in. Yeah, exactly. They cover everything.
Well, that's good to know.
So.
Now, the last question I have for you is trends. You know, there's a lot of trends in upgrading electric. There's smart homes. We mentioned smart bulbs before, efficient lighting. What's something you're seeing, and how are you dealing with it?
Sure.
What's the trend that is really a helpful trend?
Right. Well, there's lots of things, and let me just give you a personal example because I've just done this at my house. Maybe 6 months ago, I bought it's a switch that works. You take it out, take the switch that's out in your wall, we install a new switch in the wall, and it's all programmed through an app on my smartphone. So now every evening my coach lights come on at dusk, and I don't even have to change the time. It just knows when dusk is, and then they go off at midnight. So, you know, every evening it's so nice to come home and you pull in the driveway and the coach lights are on. The other thing that I have is if it's after midnight, it knows where I am based on my cell phone and my wife's cell phone. When it comes in, it's like a geo fence, they call it. So when you come in that geo fence, it knows, okay, I want to turn on the lights because they're coming home. So there's some really neat things, and there's tons of new camera apps that are out where you can, for $200, you can go and you can put a camera in your kitchen and view it on your iPhone. You know, today.
Yeah, it's a lot of different trends.
Oh, there's a ton of different systems that you can put in for home automation. You can have it when you walk in my house is 15 years old. Since day one, I've had it so that when you walk in my utility room, there's a motion switch. There's no switches on the wall. You walk in the utility room door, the light comes on. When you walk out, you know, 3 minutes later, the light goes off.
So it's a conservation thing. Nobody forgets to turn off the lights.
Exactly. And that is, I don't know if it's being an electrician or what it is, but that is such a pet peeve of mine. You know?
My dad's too, when I was growing up.
I'll tell my wife, I'm going, honey, it's just a switch. Can't you just hit it when you walk by?
I know what you mean.
So these are marriage savers.
Yes, I understand that now because it's become a pet peeve of mine.
But there are so many different home automations, and I mean, you could go on and on and on and talk about, you know, they can have it so that there are proximity locators that it knows when you come in the residence that it can turn the lights on, turn the radio on to your favorite station, and just on and on and on.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Kelly. I appreciate you answering our questions and helping us stay safe and economical.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
We appreciate it. We
me.
appreciate it. So when we come back, we're going to continue our summer talk with Ty Jones of Dean Services, and we're going to talk to him about the summer and how to keep our lawns, our shrubs, and our homes free of pests and in good shape so that people will like looking at our lawns. So stay tuned to Focus Radio, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Focus Radio and Television. I'm Anthony Rayo, and you can be watching us either on Comcast 13, Bright House 498, or coming soon to Florida Fiber Networks and CenturyLink Prism 83. We'll be on there soon. Of course, be sure to like Focus Lake County Magazine on Facebook and tune in to us, subscribe to us on YouTube, where you can watch videos like this, as well as Focus TV and other programming that we have. Keep up to date, of course, on Facebook. Now, before the break, we were talking to Kelly Lenhart of Lenhart Electric, and what he was saying was the summer. What do you do to keep your home in tip-top shape electrically? How do we do that? Well, now we're going to move on to another subject, our yards, our houses, keeping them pest-free, in good looking shape on the lawn. And we'd like to welcome Ty Jones of Dean Services and talk to him a little bit. Thank you so much for joining us, Ty.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, we appreciate you being here. Now, the first thing I want to ask you is Dean Services. Where did Dean's come from? What's the name and what's the history behind this? I know it's a family business.
Back in 1980, my father started a mowing and small landscape company called the Dean of Green. Right here in Leesburg, Florida, and he grew that up to, over a number of years, about 45 employees, and he became known as Dean, but we've eventually migrated into pest control, lawn fertilization, taking care of insects and weeds that get into the grass. Everybody knew him as Dean, so he just named it Dean's Pest Control, and we've now changed the name to Dean Services just to incorporate everything that we do.
Now, what are some of the elements that you actually touch on?
So we do mowing in the villages only. We do lawn fertilization, shrub care throughout Lake, Sumter, and Marion counties. We do pest control and termite, venturing down into parts of Orlando as far north as Ocala. We do termite work through almost half the state, coast to coast, trying to help people with the problems that they have.
Now, if we have questions, if we want to know an answer, hey, maybe we're not a customer and we're just confused, who do we call? Where do we go? Can we go to a website? Can we call one of your, your customer service reps?
Yeah, our main phone line is 352-787-5300. There's plenty of customer service reps that will answer your questions, whether you're a client or not, just general knowledge information. We also have the website, deanspestcontrol.com or deanservices.com. Either one take you to the same place. Full of information. There's pictures so you can help ID insects you might be seeing and you're not sure what they are, and some helpful tips on keeping your house bug-free.
Now, you do a monthly newsletter for customers, and I'm sure that probably is tied into the website somehow. What does that kind of cover? Is it different every month? Is it kind of, what is in there?
We change it up every time. We try to cover things, interesting things, certain insects that are beneficial to the environment, certain insects that can cause a whole lot of damage or even some health risks. Just to try to educate everybody is really what it was for. Keep them into tune of what we're doing, why we're doing it, what they need to do as the homeowner, because not everything can we solve without their help. So that was the main gist of it. It helped tremendously when we started using it 15 years ago. It cut down on how many people actually called and were asking questions on those very topics and subjects. So we actually do have a tab in the website to go back for the last couple years and see what those were, in case you just want to do some research and see what all we've been putting out there.
That's pretty cool. That's like kind of a useful tool to keep the customer informed. So like you said, you get less callbacks. And it's very educational, obviously, with newsletters and keeping people up to date on how to even care for things when you're not there.
Right. So in this scenario with the ants, many times some of the older homes, just sealing up the windows, recaulking them sometimes prevents them from getting in. Simple little things that, of course, doing that would also help with the energy bill on the house. But that's what we do. So with the newsletter and our face-to-face communication with our technicians, we'll point out, well, this is how those ants may have gotten in or were getting in, because we usually try and trail them right back to the source. And then we discuss what the options are with the homeowner to stop them from coming back in.
Now, talking about ants in the home, what about outside the home, especially during the summer now as we kind of get the heat, there's watering restrictions, there's a couple of things like that come up. How do you keep something like a fire ant, is it even possible to keep a fire ant out of your lawn? Or obviously chinch bugs are a big problem in Florida in this area because the heat, the water, everything that kind of goes into that. How do you take care of it at Dean's?
Probably the number one call or concern that we have with someone with lawn care throughout the summer is water related. If we go 4 or 5 days without a rain shower, we're on water restrictions of twice a week. The lawns will start to not look as good. They might get a few brown areas, and it's usually a weak spot in the irrigation system. And oftentimes we'll ask the people, have you checked this, have you checked the head to see if it's clogged? Has something been bumped? Is there a broken sprinkler? That's the first thing, because as soon as the grass is weakened, then it cannot naturally on its own defend against some of the insects that it can when it's under good conditions. And then our service comes into play on top of that. So we apply fertilizers, nutrients and whatnot to help enhance the lawn and the turf. And then we apply, when necessary, insecticides and weed control to help keep all of those things out of the grass and keep it looking nice and pristine. Because that's what most of us want with that service. You want to come home and you want to see a nice green lawn, something that's enjoyable to pull up to.
Something you could take a picture of and get published in Home and Garden,
Yeah.
right? That's probably what most of the retirement communities are looking for, that pristine grass, like you said.
That, and they look forward to it because they want to keep the property values up. They don't want to have to worry about some neighbors totally ignoring it and driving the values down. It's a big investment to buy a home, and they want to be able to make sure that they can keep that investment.
Now, you mentioned irrigation systems, and obviously there's watering restrictions. You can go on the county website, lakecountyfl.gov, and they have a ton of different places that you can see, okay, for this city it's that, and this city it's that. But now as a customer of Dean's, I call in and I'm having trouble. I have a brown spot in my lawn, and it's not chinch bugs. It's definitely water. How do you and what do you do when you go out to now help them solve that issue?
So normally what we do is we have some very inexpensive little rain gauges. And if we have to go out to help them understand, we'll put 1 or 2 rain gauges out and we'll have them turn that system, the zone on where the brown area is. And we'll let it run 15 minutes. And so typically, depending on the kind of sprinkler head you have, your watering should be watering, let's say, anywhere between 45 minutes on that zone to an hour and a half, depending on the sprinkler head. And in that amount of time, your goal is to get somewhere between 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch of water. And so if we run it 15 minutes, we just do the math, right? What would it be if it was 45? And you just calculate it up to make sure you're getting the right amount of water. Because if the grass or that spot isn't, that's why it's brown. And then the grass gets weak, it starts to thin out, the insects come in there because that's the weak spot and they start to eat it. So the key is getting that minimum amount of water. Now before water restrictions, going back into the early 90s.
Yeah, they've been around for a while, haven't they?
Going back then, we always recommended to our clients water 3 times a week, shoot for 3/4 of an inch of water. And if you can get that nowadays with the rainstorm, to be that third watering, your lawn's going to look beautiful. I mean, it's not going to have too many problems as long as you keep everything maintained. So twice a week is doable until we hit a drought. And then everybody starts to see some issues. Our phones start to ring and people start to get nervous and panic because they don't want to lose a lawn that's worth thousands of dollars and they've been paying someone to take care of. So, but water is always the number one and the first thing to address. Once that's addressed and corrected, whatever the issue is, everything else really isn't very difficult. We have ourselves and other companies like us usually have a regular maintenance program where we're putting out certain nutrients at a certain time of year. Depending on what we want the grass to do or the shrubbery. We know what insects are coming at what time of the year. None of them will be gone forever and never come back. You have to constantly maintain, just like anything else.
Yeah, so you don't mind the rainy season now, obviously, because it helps your bottom line.
Used to be, right. When there were no water restrictions, we couldn't stand the rain. Now we almost pray for it so that the lawns don't dry out and have brown spots.
Yeah. So now, okay, so that brings up another point, new sod. You got that on your landscaping. Now, you can water every day when you get new sod in. That's what the watering restrictions say, at least for the first 30 days. But what about the next 30 days and beyond? How do you take advantage of those first 30 days, and then what do you need to do to make sure it's maintained?
So I believe it goes, depending on where you're at, some of them go, some of the restrictions go from every day for 30 days straight down to twice a week. And then there's a few places where they actually let you go maybe every other day for another month. And basically, it is what it is. You've got to deal with whatever they give you. In most cases, after 30 days, the lawn will be okay, the new sod will be fine. Don't be concerned if you've got certain sections that are new and then you've got established grass next to it. You almost cannot overwater the grass for 30 days, even if you're watering every day. You can't overwater in the summer. You're not going to have to worry about fungus in the summer. It's too hot. Most types of fungus that come in is when it's under 70 degrees. Okay. So that's not really a concern. The concern is lack of water when it's this hot. I mean, when it hits the 90s, like anything else, everybody and everything needs water to survive. So water the maximum you're allowed when it's not raining. Oh, and let me throw this in there. Don't make the mistake of turning off your irrigation system because when you look outside and it's raining and your sprinklers turn on, you think there's something wrong. If you have a rain sensor, and most homes with an irrigation system that have been installed in the last 10 years have a rain sensor, the rain sensor won't turn your system off until it has received enough water. So if yesterday was the first day it rained in 2 weeks here, and your irrigation turned on, until your irrigation system received a half an inch or a 3/4 of an inch, whatever it's set at, your irrigation would have still come on and run until it had enough, even with the rain. So most people, the reason I say that is they will forget to go back out into the garage and turn the system back on, and there's where it gets them.
And then you've got to call back.
Yeah, it's not on the front. Yeah, and they've got damage to the lawn. Now it's going to take months for that to recover.
Yeah, you've got a brown spot.
Let the system do its job.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And hopefully the neighbors won't complain that you're...
It's the system. It's running,
Yeah,
You're not doing anything
right.
wrong.
All right. So what about other things in the yard, like new shrubs? How do you take care of those? And then how do you maintain them? How do you maintain a shrub that's been there a while or rescue it?
Typically when you put the shrubs in, if it's planted properly, dug out, it's soaked. The root ball is soaked as you put it in, and then you fill it in, make sure there's no air pockets. I've watched landscapers for the last 7 or 8 years, and I don't understand why everyone got away from filling the hole halfway with water, put the plant in, and then fill it so that there are no air pockets. Because we see a certain amount of shrubs die after they're installed brand new, and air pockets happen to be one of the culprits we come across. But just like grass, you got to water them every day for the first 30 days or so to get them to establish. And then you want to, the best way is to wean them off the daily watering because the roots will stay shallow if they get daily watering. So the best scenario is you go from daily watering down to every other day and then down to 3 times a week and then 2.
As long as you're allowed to do that.
As long as you're allowed. That's the best scenario.
Okay.
It's not always possible. And then typically most of the plants, the nutrients that are in the soil, they'll sustain them. If they really want to push out blooms or they really want to push growth, they can, anybody can buy a nice general fertilizer at a garden center anywhere in town, sprinkle them around the bushes, within the drip line, not up against the base of the tree or the plant. A couple times a year and they should be fine.
Now, another question outside, mowing the lawn. How high do you want it, especially during the summer?
Well, the most common grass in the area still is St. Augustine. There's a number of varieties, but most of them all tell you to mow somewhere around 3 to 3.5 inches. So if you're staying within that, at this time of the year, the St. Augustine is growing very rapidly, so you'll have to mow every week. I wouldn't recommend trying to go longer with that because if you cut too much grass blade off, you stunt the growth, you lose a lot of the color, as you know.
Yeah.
The next most popular is zoysia. Started coming into the area about 10, 12 years ago. Zoysia is very different. We mow zoysia every other week. We mow it at 2.5 inches. You can mow it as low as 1 inch if you want, but you'll have to mow it more often. We like the 2.5 inches because typically it stays thick and it's much harder for weeds to come in. And it looks more like a carpet. You know, most
Yeah.
most of our clients, that's what they want. Nice thick grass.
The golf course grass.
Yeah, they want. Yeah. So that's how we're doing it. I know there's some people who want it to be that perfect manicured, so they'll do it every week. But that's a personal choice. And then for those of us, I have a couple of acres. I have to mow the Bahia grass every once in a while. That likes to be mowed high, 3.5, 4 inches. Once again, it helps keep the weeds out. But I will mention that oftentimes homeowners who have a Bahia lawn want to water it, and that actually could be a mistake. So Bahia is a field grass. It's what the cattle feed on. And the best weed control and insect control for that is to let it dry out when it doesn't rain, because all those weeds have a shorter root system than Bahia. The Bahia grass can get roots as deep as 6 feet if it's been there long enough.
Wow.
So it'll look brown and dead, and then after a rainstorm, it'll start to green right back up.
Well, thank you so much for the tips. We really appreciate
Absolutely.
keeping the summer heat off the lawn and kind of where it needs to be at the pool. Well, thanks for joining us, Ty, and we'll call you 787-5300 if we've got some questions, or visit the site at deanservices.com. Well, of course, make sure to pick up your copy of Focus magazine, available at almost 200 locations throughout Lake County and the villages now. It's a catalyst for conversation in the community. I'm Anthony Rayo. Thanks for listening to Focus, and don't forget to keep us in your focus.